For all the people, this is your first time, raise your hands. Are you feeling a little overwhelmed right now? Like I don't know if I can talk about solar, right? There's a lot of stuff, but for the most part, most people come to the fair will know way less than you guys will, right? So basically, some of the stuff we're going to cover tonight, if you talk about it with a little bit of enthusiasm, kind of put it into your own words so it sounds like it's coming from you, it's going to make perfect sense to the people you're talking to at the fair. Now, when you do get a little more complicated questions, there are a bunch of solar guys here. Why don't you guys raise your hands? You guys that are solar experts, pick on these guys. Don't talk to that guy, he'll steer you in the wrong direction. Come up over here. So, pick on those guys if you do get one of those really complicated, somebody really wants to get in the weeds kind of conversation. But most of these are not going to be in the weeds. I think I got to stand over here though, so I can see. I'm going to actually sit down if I have to. Okay, so you want to touch on prairie grass? Yes. Okay, prairie grass, real quick. When Minnesota started to really do a lot of community solar gardens, and still to this day, there's a little bit of a push for no solar on ag land, right? Or these things look ugly. So kind of the idea came up that we can do something to make these arrays look a lot better. The big arrays, the utility scale, the community solar gardens. We can also develop a additional revenue stream for a lot of the farmers, and we can do something else for the environment. So by planting pollinator habitat, we are increasing the carbon sequestration that happens. We are providing pollinator habitat to pollinate surrounding farms and giving them a home because they're dying. Also, it really mitigates stormwater runoff. And if you know what a plowed field does for stormwater runoff compared to putting some pollinator habitat, it's like a 95% reduction. So it's really an awesome thing. Okay, let's move on. Go to the next one, nobody cares.
We want to look at a picture of you.
That's my roof.
Yeah, you didn't have a safety harness on.
No, I didn't. You would know that. Okay, some of the easy questions you guys are going to get at the fair. What does this stuff cost? Okay, that question really is depends, right? There's a lot of factors. When I used to get that question, the first thing I would ask is, what color is your house? They go, what is that? I can't tell you how much is this going to cost in your house. It really depends. So we kind of go to the average. In Minnesota, we'll get to that price later, but it's about $420 a watt, but there's a range. That's before incentives and tax credits. In a typical house, maybe 4 to 8. We'll typically see some of the larger houses, if you got room, up to 10. But we are almost always mitigated by the amount of roof space we have, right? There's vent stacks in the way. You got windows up there sometimes, chimneys. It really depends. So don't get into the weeds, okay? Oh, it is on this side. Okay. The range for MIM was 288 to 567. That's quite a range. Average was 420 across the state. There are a lot less now, right? What are you guys installing for? 350? 325?
A lot.
Yeah. So it's all over the board. So don't get into specifics, but kind of, have the attitude that it's not overly expensive. You can afford it. Okay? All right. What's a payback? That's another one. Most people want simple payback. Simple payback's not a really good way to look at it. Typically, I'd say simple payback, 8 to 10 years. But after that, it's profit, right? Everything after that is profit. That's income. So you want to kind of make it sound like it's really great. Also, the rate of return. Depending on the size of the system, I'm a finance guy, 8 to 10% was fairly average. I saw systems that were giving me an internal rate of return of 13, 14%. The conditions was good. And then my question is, what are you getting in your 401? Right?
Not much.
Yeah. So as an investment strategy, I've had people pull money out of their 401 to pay for their solar. Just made sense. Okay. ITC, this is a big one. The ITC stands for Investment Tax Credit. Something I recommend everybody go kind of play around with is www.desire USA.org.
We're gonna have all these slides on our website, so you don't have to write things down.
Okay. And when you tell people desired USA.org, spell it. If you put an E in there, you're gonna go someplace they don't wanna go. Right? Yeah.
Is this information going to be available in a book or something at the fair?
Like a printout of all
Handouts?
Hand out something so that, I don't remember my email address, much less.
Okay, we can look at that, yeah, we can look at printing out a set of these.
Or something.
Okay,
Well, you can print these pages out again, you just can't distribute them.
what's that?
You can print more copies of what I brought,
Right.
you just can't distribute them.
He handed out a sheet with all this information on it, but they
Okay.
ran out.
Okay, so real quick, investment tax credit. This is a federal tax credit. It's not a rebate, it's a tax credit. This year, it's still at 30%. Next year, it's gonna go down to 26%, 22%. And then for commercial, 10%, and for residential, it goes away. There is a push to kind of maybe re-up it, but that's gonna depend on a lot of factors, and,
2020 election.
like an election. So, when we're talking about it, right now's the time, right? We want to save that ITC. One thing about the ITC is you actually have to have an income to take it, right? You don't make any money, you don't pay any taxes, you can't take the ITC. Okay? Next.
Next.
Oh, it didn't go, sir.
Next.
I'm not paying attention. There.
Mike. Okay. One of the more common things you're going to get asked is, what about incentive programs? Okay, right now there are a couple in the state. One is XL Energy Solar Rewards, and the other is Minnesota Power Solar Sense. Solar rewards for this year, there's two things that happen on an incentive. One is a production-based incentive, which pays you for every kilowatt hour your system produces. Okay? And that's for low income. And 7 cents for residential, and 6 cents for commercial. So what that means is for every kilowatt hour that system produces, if it's on a house, they'll give you 7 cents. That adds up. This is good for 10 years. Okay?
Is that on top of that metering, Chuck?
Yep, on top of that meter. They'll send you a check at the end of the year for that amount. It's a pretty nice deal.
$1,000 every June, I get it.
Yep. So, that's a big deal. For low-income qualifying people, they also do an upfront incentive. So if you're in low-income residential, which means you have to qualify for LIHEAP, energy assistance, they'll give you $2 per nameplate off. So, 1,000 watts will get you $2,000 off your system, plus they'll pay you the 7 cents. Okay. Now, big misconception with, John?
That payment, like if it's installed this year, 7 cents, you will get 7 cents per kilowatt hour every year for 10 years.
10 years.
It doesn't go down if they change the upfront incentive in 2019.
Yeah, this number will go down next year. Probably a penny. Well, we're not sure.
But not for people that install.
No, once you're locked in, you're locked in. So one thing about incentives from the utility, that's not taxpayer money. That's your rate money, right? When you pay your electric bill, some of that money goes into this pool. What the utility is purchasing here is the REC credit, okay? It's a renewable energy credit, and that's how utilities meet their portfolio standards. So they're purchasing that from you, okay? A lot of people will say it's tax money. Why is my tax money incentivizing solar? And I'm like, it's not tax money. It's rebate money that the utility needs because they have to get so much renewable energy in their system. That make sense? Okay. Next. Minnesota Power Solar Sense. Yeah. 78 cents a watt last year. They actually estimate production and pay you that up front. So as soon as your system's interconnected, they give you a check. Well, this year it pulls out of money already, and we don't know if it's going to continue. Okay. So I get this one a lot. Will my taxes go up? So in Minnesota, they will not assess your property taxes for the value of your solar. They can't add that on. So if you add $100,000 worth of solar onto your farm, they cannot raise your property value by $100,000. It's exempt. There's also no sales tax on solar, okay? If you're putting up a pergola, put your solar on it, you're gonna pay sales tax on that. And that also is not good for the 30% federal tax credit. It's just the solar, okay? Now, how does solar work? You're gonna get this a lot. And really, it's just magic, right? You will get this question a lot. How does it work? Basically, if you know what an atom is, a photon of light travels from the sun, it knocks an electron out of orbit of an atom, that creates a current in the panel, and it goes to the wire. It's that simple. It's that elegant.
I've had to explain this to my in-laws many times. What's getting used up? That panel is gonna get used up.
Yeah. Or all the sunlight's getting sucked into the module and gonna run out of sunlight. It really is a photon knocking an electron out of an orbit of an atom. And if you think about the efficiency question, because you'll get some of these, why should I do this when it's only 18% efficient when if I replace my water heater with a 95 or 99% efficient water heater, that's a better deal. And I go, if I'm taking a photon of light and knocking an electron out of an atom, and an atom is like, what, 99% empty space, and I'm doing that 18% of the time, that's freaking amazing, right? Stay away from efficiency, because it doesn't compare. If I'm comparing swapping on an electric hot water heater, sure goes like at 52% efficient, then they turn it to a mechanical, or heat, then they turn it to mechanical energy, then they put it on the lines. You gotta factor in that kind of efficiency too. That hot water heater is only as efficient as the electricity coming into my house. Stay away from efficiency. Is there a question?
Can you go back to that last slide? So it
I'm not in
says,
control.
That,
What?
that we
It's
produce,
what Einstein and his
that we
mojo.
produce more than Eastern Arizona what they need. How?
Okay,
Because we
Great question.
don't get nearly as much sunlight.
no, we don't, but we also don't have nearly as much dust in our air. Okay? Dust is bad. It's called spectral scattering. So if we look at, most textbooks will tell you the perfect tilt of a module is your latitude, right? So Minnesota, we should be at 45 degrees. Our winter air is so dry and clear and cold that we actually outproduce Tucson in the wintertime. Because spectral scattering doesn't happen, and they're solid state materials, so they work better when they're cold. Go down to Arizona, especially during the windy season, our modules are always covered in dust. Shades the evil giant, right? So we actually do very well here in Minnesota. Any questions on that? Awesome. Okay. What happens when it's rainy or cloudy? Well, it produces less, that's for sure. But yeah, it still produces. I've had my system turn on during a full moon. It didn't produce any current, but there was enough light that my inverter started going, wait a minute, something's going on here, right? That happens. So on a really sunny day, I'm producing a lot. Even with 2 inches of snow in that module, I'm producing something, but it's a little, right? So it varies throughout the season, but it will still produce. It doesn't just stop, okay? What about snow? Same thing, like I said, 2 inches of snow, those panels are, they're designed to suck up as much of that light as they can. So they start sucking up that light, they start to warm up a little bit, you get a little film of water in there, and I've seen them sheet off like it will the steel roof, right? But it melts. It's up on a roof, the wind blows it off. When I first got my system 5 years ago, I was very diligent. If it snowed, I cleaned it off. 2 snowstorms, I cleaned it off. We're over a foot of snow. Climbed up there. I got a 2-story walkout. I'm up there shoveling snow. Get down. I probably just made myself $6. I'm not doing it anymore, right? So I don't worry about the snow. If it's up there, depending on the tilt, snow for me is not an issue. If it's ground mount, it's easy to sweep off. As soon as it warms up, it's going to melt and slide off. The wind's going to take care of it. Snow is really not a huge issue. Flat roofs with parapets, whole different story. Okay, is hail damaging? Could. When I was in the field, I had 2 modules broken by hail. I was in a storm in St. Joe, 40 panels on the array, baseball size hail, 2 broke. Pretty impressive. was recently that last hailstorm. I heard a couple got broken, but I haven't seen or heard what kind of the damage was. But you have insurance, right? Insurance on my house, right here, $7.20 a year on a 4 kilowatt system on my house. It's not a big deal. The utilities generally require, what is it now, 300,000? Your homeowners generally has 300,000 of liability already on it, so that doesn't increase. It's just on the replacement cost of the unit, right? It's not overly expensive.
So, squirrel guard and insurance. Insurance does not cover squirrel damage, get squirrel
Nope,
guard.
get squirrel guard if you live in a neighborhood with squirrels.
Seriously?
Yep, they chew the wire.
$2,000 in damage.
They like it.
Insurance companies won't cover it.
Well, stop greasing it with peanut butter. How to find a good installer?
Way up there.
This is a really tricky question, especially working at the fair. We don't recommend to anybody, especially at the state, we don't pick winners or losers. I always advocate that you interview 3 installers and pick the one you want to work with, right? It's not always about the money. This is an ongoing concern. You're going to have that array in your house for 20, 25 years. 10 years down the road or so, 15 years down the road, you might need an inverter replaced. Pick somebody you want to work with, right? It is a very competitive market on price, so the price should be pretty much the same no matter which 3 you interview or get a bid from. But
And pick one that's been in business and is gonna stay in business, not.
yeah, we did have one take off last year. That was tough. Okay, otherwise, CERT's website, we already covered that. You can go to the Mencia website, or there is a solar business directory on the Minnesota Department of Commerce website. Well, most of those lists are self-reported. You know, we send out a survey, they respond, they get the name of the director.
Can you sort by area, by where you live?
Not on ours.
There is one site that has it. I'm not sure whose
I don't know
site it
whose that is. I've seen it, but that's not CERT's.
No. Something, planner or maker.
Oh, one of those, they pay to be listed on there. I kind of avoid those.
I know, I still get calls from Slayton,
Yeah.
Minnesota.
I've had a couple of questions when I was there, where somebody has a small cabin or a shack in northern Minnesota, and I said, you can put in a 12-volt system, you don't need to be a licensed anything to do that,
Okay.
right?
Yes, that question's coming up here in a minute. Okay. What does it do to the value of my home? This is also a tough question because we haven't had enough homes sell that have had solar on it, so we really don't have a data set. Now, there were a couple studies done, one in Colorado, one in California, and I think the other one may have been in Massachusetts. But they found, that's not me, okay. They have found that usually the home sells above the value based on the remaining value of the solar. So if you got like a warranted 15-year life, what is that system going to produce in the next 15 years? That's the amount it increases the value of your home. But the really interesting part was the homes that had solar were sold 60 days faster than homes that didn't in those markets. Because a lot of people want this stuff. They don't want to deal with it, right? So if there's a house that already has solar on, they want that one. Now that's one concept I haven't been able to get through to the Builders Association. Because if I'm a builder and I can sell my house 60 days faster, it makes sense to me. I don't know. Okay, and will it work when the power goes out? I think we already touched on that. No, it doesn't. That's a safety issue. We're not going to put power back on the grid when the lineman's down the street trying to fix my power. Unless you have battery backup, okay? We put battery backup in to trick your system into thinking that the grid is still on. But is it still that you have to manually reconnect, right?
But they have monitors too.
You know, the grid comes back up.
Automatic transfer switch will go.
Oh, it takes it off.
And take it back.
Oh, it takes it back on?
Sure.
Okay, it used to be you had to manually do it.
Do it manually.
I've been out of the field too long.
You have to manually turn it back on or?
Okay, and I think that's the last question. Oh, no, I think there's one more. Right?
Nope.
No. Okay, that's all there was. Okay, real quick to answer your question. Yeah, it's your house. You can do whatever you want. But solar can be complicated. It is pretty simple, but You require a licensed electrician to intertap with the grid. If it's a 12-volt system off the grid, yeah, you can. If you have the wherewithal to do it, go ahead. I wouldn't recommend it.
Some insurance policies won't.
Yeah, some insurance won't, and you certainly can't get any incentives if you do it yourself. As long as you hire a licensed electrician to intertap. Okay, there was one other thing, I have a slide I didn't add. One of the things you are gonna get at the fair are NIMBYs, right? They're not in my backyard people. These are the people that no matter what you tell them, you're never gonna satisfy their curiosity or their angst about solar. One of the ones I got quite often was about why we put all the solar arrays so close to the roads, all the community solar gardens. Because that's where the power lines are. It always is going to come down to a monetary thing. Putting it in the back 40 is not cost effective. Putting it up where the power lines are and the substations are is cost effective. I don't have to run, copper's expensive. If I got to run that copper through another 10 acres of land, I want my profit margin. You're going to get stuff like that. Don't try to argue with these people. Bring them to one of these guys that raise their hand, or I'm working 2 days at the fair for the Commerce Department. Let somebody else deal with it. Okay. Any questions?
Back to the investment tax credit, is that date based on installation or was it down payment?
Right now, you can safe harbor it. Up until now, it was installation. Now, it's when you pay for it.
That's just commercial.
Yeah, the safe harbor is just commercial. You can't safe harbor a residential. But it is when you pay for it.
Can you restate that and say that residential it does not qualify if it's installed after the end of this year?
Residential does not qualify
For 30%.
for the 30% if it's installed after December 31st.
It said it's paid for after December 31st.
Installed.
Well, has to be finished.
Yeah. For safe harbor, you have to pay a percentage, and I believe it's 5%. 5% commercial to safe harbor by the end of the year.
Because last time this came up years ago when they were going to cancel the,
Yeah.
they had to pay for it, and 50% of the work had to be completed by that January 1st deadline. Didn't have to be
Yeah.
commissioned.
IRS just released the safe harbor rule. I haven't read through it all, but it was 5% had to be by.
Sorry, I'm in residential.
You might know.
Jack, I think the prudent thing to do is to send them to their accountant.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not a tax professional. That's our disclaimer. You really, don't wait. Just get moving.
If I'm asked how many solar buildings there are in Minnesota, I've heard 4,000. Does that sound reasonable?
Oh, it's more than that.
More than that.
Yeah, we have 4,100, or 4,000, no, I can't remember. So don't call me on that.
You're talking commercial or residential?
Total buildings. I can tell you this, we just surpassed 2% of our total electrical production in Minnesota through solar. And we hit 25% renewable.